If you should have questions regarding where you can see a live demonstration, unit prices, accessories, or specific applications for your shop, the end of the video provides complete details on how to acquire additional information. Now sit back and relax while Minimax product manager Jack Harley takes you on a tour of 8 of the finest woodworking machinery values in the world.
If you're struggling to get accuracy out of a small shaper or a 3-horsepower router table, you're really going to appreciate the power of the Minimax T3T. Unlike those machines, the Minimax T3T provides you with the versatility that you're looking for in a commercial shaper. A lot of manufacturers will try to sell you 3 machines, one for style and rail, one for panel raising, and one for coping and tenon. We're going to show you how the Minimax T3T can do the job of all 3 of those machines for the price of only one. For molding work or style and rail components, the micro-adjustable fence assembly sets up facing the front of the machine. You have 2 vertical pressure springs and 2 horizontal pressure springs to hold your work firmly in place as it's being fed through the cutter head. The fence wings can be adjusted to accommodate various size cutters, up to 7 inches in diameter, and there's a dust collection outlet built into the fence assembly. Another design feature of the T3T is its oversized tabletop for better support of longer material. The large fence assembly and oversized cast iron table provide the control and support needed for large panel work. For maximum control of coping and tenoning work, the T3T is equipped with a sliding table. If you've ever tried to cope the end of a rail as long as this one without a sliding table, you know it's nearly impossible to do it safely and accurately. On the T3T sliding table, simply clamp your workpiece either to the table or to the tenoning plate, and it's fed smoothly past the cutter head.
The function of the tenoning plate is to move the clamping surface closer to the cutting circle of the knives to eliminate chatter as the workpiece passes the cutter head. The miter gauge assembly can swing to 45 degrees in either direction, and there's a positive 0 stop for coming back to square. The sliding table rides on chrome rods, and it travels on 7 bearings that are mounted on eccentric cams for adjustability. On the top of the bar where dust might accumulate, the roller bearings are covered by a dust scraper to keep the bearing path clean for smoother travel.
Let's take a look at the spindle assembly on the T3T. The T3T comes with 3 speeds, 4,000, 7,000, and 9,500 RPM, where the competition generally runs 2-speed, 7,000 or 7,500, and 9,000 RPM. To change the speeds on the T3T, simply unlock the spindle position, move the motor mounting, step the belt to the appropriate pulley race, and retension it and lock it back down. A very simple arrangement, requiring no tools. Now, some manufacturers actually require the operator to get under the machine with a wrench and unbolt the motor, shove the motor over to the side, and change the belt to the right pulley race just to change the speed. This makes it very difficult for an operator to run a tool at the proper speed. As you know, shaper cutters are designed to run at particular RPMs depending on the diameter of the tool. This makes the T3T much more likely to be run at the correct speed. About the spindle assembly itself, I'd like to show you a little comparison between the Minimax T3T and the competition. This is the spindle assembly from the Delta 3/4 inch shaper. This is a spindle assembly from a Powermatic 3/4 inch machine. And this is the spindle assembly from a Minimax T3T. Notice in particular the separation between the spindle bearings. The Delta machine has about 3 inches of separation between the top and bottom spindle bearings. Minimax has nearly 10 inches between the top and bottom bearings. This gives much more vertical stability to the solid spindle shaper. Notice also that these machines are 2 speeds, where the Minimax T3T is 3. On interchangeable spindles, pay particular attention to how a spindle assembly is combined. This rod is what holds the interchangeable spindle together on a Powermatic 26. Compare that to the precision solid spindle of the Minimax T3T. The combination of features you've seen on the T3T enables you to do the work that would ordinarily be done with 3 machines on one machine, the T3T, at about 1/3 the cost of a 3-machine system. You've seen how the T3T can do the work of 3 machines. Now let's take a look at another machine that can do 8 hours worth of work in 1 hour. If you're tired of struggling with a hand belt sander, the L55 can do in 1 hour what it might take 8 hours to do with your hand belt sander. Let me show you how it works. Now, a panel like this might take 15 minutes to do with a hand belt sander. And just as you're about to finish, you notice one more spot that you've got to do, and boom, you've cut a groove right up the middle of the panel. Now you've got to go back and sand out that groove, and by the time you're finished, the panel's not even close to flat. That'll never happen on the L55 because the spring-loaded pressure pad floats over the panel surface, giving you a smooth, flat surface every time. Let's take a look at how it works. And there it is, perfection in about 40 seconds. Now let's take a look at some special features that make the L55 the perfect sanding machine for any woodworking shop. As you can see, the L55 spring-loaded sanding pad and the rolling head allows the operator to cover the entire 3 by 8 foot table surface from one position with fingertip control. The pad floats easily over the panel, prevents marring or gouging, and this does an excellent job on sanding veneers. For the problem of sanding the shaped edge of a raised panel, the L55 can also be used as a profile sander. By utilizing a shaped hand block and a flexible sanding belt, the L55 can make short work of sanding irregular shapes. Not only does the L55 do an excellent job on flat sanding or profile sanding, but with a flip of a switch, the table lowers to a full 27-inch opening for sanding completely assembled case pieces. When a wider opening is needed, the table can be repositioned to provide a full 42-inch opening to the floor. Now, with the table in the vertical position, the machine can also be used for edge sanding or, again, as a profile sander. Another application is to reverse the sanding belt rotation for sanding either off the platen on top of the machine or sanding curved parts off the drum. Now, when you've finished 8 hours worth of hand belt sanding in just 1 hour on the L55, simply lower the head and fold the arms back into the machine and turn the sanding pad handle back underneath, and the L55 takes just 22 inches of floor space off a wall. Now, a stroke sander and a wide belt sander are 2 ways to increase your productivity. But there's a lot of things that you can't do with a wide belt sander. The L55 allows you to sand flat panels, you can sand profiled shapes. On the platen, you can sand smaller component parts, and you can sand curved parts off the drum. With the optional dust collector, the L55 represents the best value in a stroke sander. But now let's take a look at another excellent value in a stroke sander. This is the EE1500 stroke sander. Where the L55 has a fixed table and a rolling head, the EE1500 has a stationary head and a rolling table. Priced at about 30% less than the L55, the 1500 still performs in about an hour what it might take 8 hours to accomplish with a hand belt sander. Like the L55, the spring-loaded pressure pad moves up and down the length of the workpiece, but in this case, the rolling table carries the stock back and forth under the belt. Like the L55, the machine has automatic raising and lowering of the work table and reversing belt rotation for sanding either off the platen on top of the machine or off the idler pulley. And like the L55, belt changing is quick and simple. A point that should be noted is that dust collection is standard equipment on the EE1500. In summary, at about 30% less cost than the L55, the EE1500 still provides the power and flexibility that's not available from hand belt sanders. Now let's take a look at another machine that cuts endless hours of labor down to minutes. When it comes to lathe work, if you just got to make one turning, any lathe can do the job. But when you've got to make two pieces exactly identical, you need the tremendous turning capacity of the Minimax T124. Let's take a look at some of the features that set this machine apart. Standard features on the T124 include a manual tool rest for hand turning, number 2 Morse taper drive and tail centers, and a 5-inch faceplate for turning up to 16 inches over the bed. The mainstay of the T124's efficiency, its copy mechanism. The T124's copy assembly is a modified version of much more expensive hydraulic copier systems. The pre-cutting knife takes the corners off the stock and sizes it to fit snugly inside the steady rest, and the profiling knife follows a spring-loaded stylus that traces against a template or an original sample piece and cuts the final profile. For this demonstration, we've mounted a steel template on the machine. Could just as easily be a piece of 1/4-inch plexiglass that you can easily make on your bandsaw. And we've got a square chucked into the machine. Now let's see how it's done. As you can see, the pre-cutting knife has rounded off the square stock. The turnings entered the steady rest where it was stabilized inside the ball bearing. This one happens to be running inside a bushing to reduce the diameter of the bearing. The profiling knife, following the motion of the stylus underneath, copies the template's profile onto the workpiece. The moving steady rest just in front of the profiling knife stabilizes the spinning workpiece and keeps it from whipping while the profiling knife is making the finished cut. This allows fast, easy turning of long, slender pieces. One popular application of this machine is to turn railing balusters. For that, the pre-cut knife is removed and a square bushing can be inserted into the steady rest to allow turning a baluster with a square top and bottom. When making a deeper cut that could be accomplished in one pass, the depth control knob can be adjusted to allow the machine to take off a limited amount with each pass. This allows you to run the machine back and forth across the pattern and work it all the way down to the profile and then go on to the next section of the pattern without coming off the shoulder that was created by the pre-cut knife. One handy feature of the T124 is the plus-minus adjustment that allows the operator to dial in a critical dowel dimension. An example of this might be if you're making a chair leg that needs to fit into a hole in a seat, the operator can dial in that dowel dimension exactly. For duplicating diameters that are larger than 3 1/8 inches, the moving steady rest can be removed and the optional 3-point fixed steady rest can be added. This allows diameters up to 7 inches to be turned on the copy mechanism. For these larger diameters, you're going to want to slow down the speed. And that's a simple process on the T124. And speed changing is accomplished by simply relaxing the tension on the belt, stepping the belt to the proper pulley race, and retensioning. The 4 speeds possible with the T124 range from 680 to 3,000 RPM. In addition to the 3-point fixed steady rest, Minimax offers a whole range of accessories for the T124. Disc sanding tables, cup chucks, screw chuck, 3- and 4-jaw chucks, and a long turning attachment, and many others. Like all the Minimax machinery, the T124 offers an unparalleled level of flexibility and quality. In summary, the T124 is a 47-inch by 16-inch manual lathe, or a 43-inch by 7 inches to the duplicator, or 41 inches by 3 1/8 with a moving steady rest. The construction is a heavy gauge steel frame with a welded steel box beam, offering the most stable design available. It's a 4-speed machine ranging from 680 RPM to 3,000 for a wide range of diameters, and it's driven by a 1-horse, 1-phase, 115-volt motor. Whether you have to turn one piece or duplicate hundreds of pieces exactly, the Minimax T124 is the ideal machine for your wood turning needs. This is the S45 18-inch bandsaw. For the professional woodworker who's looking for something more than a 14-inch machine, the S45 provides 90% of the capacity of most 20-inch machines for about half the money. Now, the heart of any good bandsaw is its wheels. In that respect, Minimax uses a dynamically balanced cast iron wheel. Where other manufacturers use an elastic band stretched around the wheel to create the tire, Minimax uses a heat-bonded, vulcanized rubber tire. This gives better balancing and longer tire life. We use sealed ball bearings on both the top and bottom wheels for essentially maintenance-free operation. Let me point out the blade tensioning knob on the top of the machine. It's easily accessible from the front when you're changing blades, and it's equipped with a scale to indicate the correct tension on various width blades. This makes accurate blade tensioning much simpler. Now let me point out the bottom drive wheel. Like the top wheel, the bottom wheel is again dynamically balanced, cast iron, and again it has a vulcanized rubber tire. The bottom wheel is equipped with a blade cleaning brush to keep the tire free from dust during operation, and the dust connection outlet is immediately below the table, also to keep the bottom chamber clear from dust. A very important feature of the S45 is the bottom drive wheel itself. The drive pulley is actually milled into the cast iron bottom wheel. This adds mass to the wheel and creates a tremendous flywheel effect when the machine gets up to speed. This increases your cutting power for deep bandsawing or resaw work. The machine is driven by a 1.5 horsepower 230-volt motor. It's available in single or 3-phase. As with all the 230-volt machinery, it's equipped with a magnetic protection switch. The function of the magnetic protection switch is to disconnect automatically should you lose power to the machine for some reason. If you have a blackout or a blown breaker, the switch will disconnect and prevent the machine from restarting automatically when power is restored to the machine. This is a safety benefit should you decide to change the blades during a blackout or a power failure. The machine can't come on automatically and cause injury. While I'm down here, I'd like to point out the tilting table. The table tilts 45 degrees to the right and can lock in any intermediate position. And there's an adjustable zero stop for assuring that you come back down to a perfect square to the blade every time. Now let's take a look at the business end of this machine. With the S45, you'll never be handcuffed by a 6-inch resaw capacity. The S45 has a full 10 inches under the guides and 17 1/4 to the throat. Another important design feature of the S45 is the blade guide assembly, which is easy to adjust and lock side to side and front to back. This quick set guide provides a 3-way bearing system which reduces blade drift. Another element of the blade control system is the tracking mechanism.
Blade tracking is done from the rear of the machine. Simply unlock the thumb screw, tilt the wheels by means of the knob, and lock it. As with all the Minimax machinery, the S45's construction is a heavy gauge welded steel frame like you see on larger industrial bandsaws, and it's cast iron where it needs to be cast iron. With a blade capacity from an 1/8 inch up to 3/4 of an inch for scroll work or heavy resawing, 10-inch resaw capacity, and 17¼ inches to the throat, we believe the S45 is the best value available in a bandsaw. Now let's take a look at another tremendous Minimax value. Building furniture or kitchen cabinets, you need your lumber straight and flat. It's a common misconception that a thickness planer can straighten a piece of wood. The thickness planer is designed to accurately thickness, but it's not designed to straighten a piece of wood. For that, you need a jointer. Now, most shops have a 6-inch jointer, which is really only good for edge joining lumber. If you buy your lumber in random widths, and you get anything wider than 6 inches, the first thing that you've got to do is take that board to your table saw and rip it down narrow enough to get onto your joiner tables. That's the single most dangerous thing that you can do in a woodworking shop, is rip a piece of warped lumber. As the blade cuts through and the board is split, if it falls back into the blade, it causes kickback, and that we want to eliminate. We provide you with a wide bed joiner to do your flattening. Both the FSB 31 and the FSB 35 are wide bed joiners, thickness planers, and horizontal boring and slot mortising machines. And let me show you how they work. Because the FSB 31 12-inch machine and the FSB 35 13.5-inch machine function in about the same way, we're going to concentrate on the FSB 35. Now, the way it works is like this. The wood is flattened by passing it over the cutter head without allowing it to distort or twist as it's fed over. The cutter head cuts it flat on the bottom side of the panel. Once the stock is flattened, the flat side is placed against the joiner fence and again passed over the cutter head, which will give you two sides perfectly flat and perpendicular to each other. Once you've got all your boards flattened and straightened, to convert to thickness planing, simply pull the fence forward and unlock the table, tilt the tables up, put the chip chute up over the cutter head. Now the machine is set as a 13.5-inch thickness planer. That took about 10 seconds. Now just simply set your planer table height, lock it in place, and engage the feed clutch, and you're ready to thickness plane. You end up with a straight, flat piece of lumber that you can take to your table saw and safely rip into dimension stock. If you take a look at the heavy-duty cast iron construction in these joiner tables, you can tell this is no lightweight. Both the in-feed and the out-feed joiner tables are easily adjustable, and both tables are equipped with silencers to reduce the operating noise level of the machine. The chip chute can be equipped with an optional dust collector outlet to minimize the amount of dust escaping into your shop. The FSB 35 and 31 come standardly equipped with sectional anti-kickback fingers to reduce the risk of a piece of stock coming back at you. The infeed roll is a serrated steel infeed roll, and the outfeed is a smooth steel outfeed roll. And this eliminates the hassles that rubber feed rolls cause on smaller planers. The cutter head is a 3-knife, spring-loaded cutter head. The spring loading simplifies setting the knives after sharpening. Let me show you how well this spring-loaded cutter head works. Turn the gib screws and the knife springs out, allowing it to be removed and sharpened. When the knife is reinstalled, the cutter head springs up. Now just take the knife setting template that comes with the machine and press down so that the knives seat against the template. Then just tighten the gib screws and go on to the next knife.
This makes it very easy to set the cutter head. It takes only 5 or 10 minutes compared to as long as an hour or 2 on smaller joiners. Now, to convert from thicknessing back to surface planing or joining, just make sure the mating surfaces are free from dust or chips. Bring the surfaces down and lock them into position. Move the fence back, and now you're ready for joining or flattening. Or you can use the third function of the machine, the horizontal boring or mortising attachment. On the back side of the machine, on the end of the cutter head shaft, we mounted a Westcott mortiser chuck, specifically designed to support the side-to-side motion of mortising bits, as opposed to other type chucks that are designed primarily to make straight in and out bores. The cast iron mortiser table can be adjusted vertically by a hand wheel and locked into position, and both the depth and side-to-side movement of the table can be set with stops. And horizontal boring is achieved by moving the table into the drill or mortising bit and coming straight out, then shifting to the opposite stop and drilling a second hole. Slot mortising can be accomplished by drilling a series of overlapping holes and then cleaning them out with a final pass. As we said, for cabinet work or fine furniture, you need your lumber straight and flat. To do that, you need a wide bed joiner and a thickness planer. With the FSB35, you get all of that and a horizontal boring and mortising attachment. Now, you could easily spend twice the money and 3 times the floor space with separate machines. But the Minimax FSB31 or 35 can do all of what separate machines can do and save you time, space, and money without sacrificing quality or performance. Now let's take a look at another machine that really performs. The basic configuration of the SC10 provides you with an extremely reliable heavy-duty table saw. But the SC10 is much more than just a table saw. The 1-inch arbor can take up to a 12-inch main blade or a 10-inch blade when a scoring blade is used. The scoring blade is used to cut the bottom side of a laminated panel and prevent chipping or tear out when the panel is cut. The SC10 also comes equipped standard with a 2-inch dado extension. The cast iron work surface and the cast iron trunnion assembly underneath provide you with years and years of reliable performance. The machine is driven by a 3 horsepower, 230-volt motor, and it's available in single or 3-phase. The use of the Biesmeyer T-square fence system on the SC10 demonstrates our commitment to quality. The Biesmeyer 50-inch rip fence is the industry standard in table saw fences. The fence is adjustable for alignment to the saw blade, and the simple construction provides years of dependable service. And the machine is also equipped with a T-slotted miter gauge. Now, to this point, we've seen how the machine functions as a basic table saw or a table saw with scoring. But as I said, this machine is much more than just a basic table saw, because it's also equipped with an extremely functional sliding table crosscut. While its 50-inch opening can allow you to work with 4x8 panels, it's ideally suited for accurately cross-cutting and mitering solid wood lumber. You'll notice that the sliding table provides a hold-down clamp, and the miter gauge swings to 45 degrees. There's a 0 stop for coming back down to an accurate 90-degree cut. There's an anti-splintering device that's mounted on the aluminum fence, and for longer cuts and trim work, the SC10 is equipped with a telescoping crosscut stop. Mounted on a gooseneck swing arm, the sliding table travels on adjustable ball bearings against a hardened steel rod. When ripping, the sliding table can be removed and stowed, and the rod can be pushed forward out of the operator's way. Overall, the SC10 is a remarkable value in a table saw. Combining the features of a 12-inch blade or a 10-inch blade with scoring, the Biesmeyer 50-inch fence assembly, and the sliding table, all built into a heavy-duty cast iron construction, makes this machine an excellent value. But if what you're looking for is a machine designed for cutting panels, let's take a look at another machine. The S250S sliding table scoring saw is a machine specifically designed for chip-free cutting of laminated panels. The elongated sliding table supports the front end of the panel, and the outrigger table supports 48 inches to the left of the blade. Unlike a standard table saw, where the panel is dragged over the top of the table surface, the S250S has the sliding table positioned close to the blade to reduce marring on the panel surface. Now, the S250S is loaded with features. Let's take a look at them. To begin with, the 50-inch sliding table is equipped with the same telescoping crosscut fence as the SC10. The anti-splintering block, the hold-down clamp, the squaring block, and the telescoping end stop are all standard equipment on this machine as well. The sliding table, riding on hardened steel guide rods, is operating on adjustable ball bearings. The table can be locked into position for standard cutting of lumber, and the saw blade tilts to 45 degrees and can be locked in any intermediate position. Again, as with all the 230-volt machines, the S250S is equipped with magnetic protection. You'll notice a separate switch for the scoring motor on this machine. The machine comes equipped with a Biesmeyer fence, ripping 50 inches to the right of the blade, and there's an extension table to the right of the main saw table. The panel you make by simply cutting a piece of 5/8 panel material and dropping it into the frame. And we're showing the machine with an optional Biesmeyer overarm guard. We've selected the Biesmeyer fences and guards because they offer the same quality and versatility that we've designed into all the Minimax machinery. Example of that quality are the clear plastic panels that allow the operator to see what he's doing underneath. And when the guard is raised, it's tied into an alarm box to indicate that the saw blade is exposed. The guard is adjustable forward and back and left and right to give the operator maximum flexibility for tilting or dadoing. On a conventional table saw, chipping is caused when the main blade passes through the body of the panel and snaps off the laminate material on the bottom side. The function of a scoring blade is to simply skin the laminate material off the bottom of the panel, and when it passes through the main blade, the laminate material has already been cut. Look at the difference between these two panels. The one on the left was cut on an ordinary saw blade without scoring. You can see the chipping along the cut edge of the panel. The one on the right is perfectly straight and chip-free. You've seen how that main blade scoring blade combination works. Now let's take a look at how they're adjusted. The scoring blade can be raised or lowered below the table with an Allen wrench and aligned left and right with the main blade with an open end wrench. More and more small shops are faced with the problem of cutting laminated panels, and the S250S solves those problems. And with the scoring blade lowered below the table and the sliding table locked in position, the S250S also operates as an extremely efficient standard duty table saw. This videotape highlights just 8 machines from the Minimax line, and we hope that these demonstrations will help you make an informed decision before you add the next machine to your shop. Of course, we'd be pleased if that machine were a Minimax machine, but more important, you buy the right machine for your specific application. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to see a demonstration at a distributor near you, contact us at the number you'll see at the end of this tape. Thanks for your interest in Minimax, and we hope that these demonstrations will help you buy the right machine for the job.